Okay, so this is going to go over answers to your Constitution Digital Foldable. I'm in present mode right now. We'll flip through and see if we can find some answers to things that you need. Goals of the Constitution, federal system, these are all the different assignments that you had to do. So let's click through and make sure you finished everything. Goals of the Constitution, there is a link in Schoology under the resources for this foldable that you would use to come up with the goals. You also had a video to watch. We're not going to do that while we go over. We're just going to look at what your answers should have been for goals of the Constitution. Now, if all you wrote what's in bold here, to form a more perfect union, to establish justice, that's fine, but you do need to know what each of these means. So when you get to the test, it will ask you things like, what does it mean to ensure domestic tranquility? So we have to have that too. So to form a more perfect union, obviously that's going to be to get the states to join together and work together better than they did originally when we had the Articles of Confederation. So they want to make a strong, united country. Establish justice. You probably know that justice has to do with the courts and laws and judges. So this is to make sure everybody is treated fairly under our laws. Okay? Ensure domestic tranquility is to keep peace in our own country amongst ourselves so that we don't have too much violence on the streets, that we can treat each other well, that we're safe here. And then common defense, that would be foreign enemies. So they're providing for the common defense. That means protecting our country from outsiders that might want to hurt us. And then promoting general welfare, that's taking care of our basic needs. And health and safety are the examples I gave you there. Making sure that people have enough food to eat, a place to live, that they can see a doctor if they need to, things like that. Hey, ensuring the blessings of liberty, that means to keep our country free, that we will fight for our own freedom. Okay, federalism. This was a little longer. If you were in class for hybrid, you already got some help with this. But what you were supposed to do was watch the video on federalism, find out what federalism is, and then create a symbol that shows it, like the 3-layer cake from the video. We have a federal government, a state, and a local government. Obviously, the federal government is the strongest. Any laws that they make in the federal government, the rest of us have to follow. Every state has to follow. The state would be the next most powerful, and local would be the smallest or the least powerful. So you need a symbol that shows that. I also gave an example of I had 3 fish, the biggest one eating the middle one going after to try to eat the smaller one. So if you were in class, you probably saw that too. Seen a lot of good examples of this. As long as your symbol can show that the federal government is the bigger and the stronger, much stronger than state or local, then your symbol will work just fine. They can't be equal. So here's where you were supposed to put your idea. You could make it with shapes. You could draw it yourself. It did not say that you could go search for a different symbol online and just put it there. This one you had to create yourself. Now, examples of this was found, I'm going to show you really quick. In the textbook, it said there was a chart. I believe it's 201 in the book, showed you this chart right here. National, state, and then powers they share. Those are called concurrent. So I gave a few examples in here. Federal powers, they run the military, the post office, things like that. They both have the power to tax and maintain law and order. And then the states, they can do things like licensing for jobs, like you need a license to be a plumber or an electrician, a lawyer, a teacher, things like that. They also issue driver's licenses. They decide how old you have to be to drive a car, things like that. And then marriage licenses are state laws too. States also run elections. So that's important to remember too. Okay. The 3 branches of government, you had video links in Schoology for each one. This one shows you all 3, what they are. But But if you needed more detail, you could go into Schoology and read about the three branches. You could watch a little video that explains each one. And here's what you needed to put in for answers: the name of the branch, the main jobs, the powers they have over the other two branches need to be there too. So this first one is the executive branch. They carry out or enforce laws. So when a law is made, the executive branch, and now this has the president, right? They carry out the laws, make sure that they happen, that people are going to follow them. And then powers of the court over the courts, they get to choose federal judges, right, in federal courts. That includes the Supreme Court. So the President of the United States gets to choose who goes to the Supreme Court to be a new justice. And we just had that happen a few weeks ago. The powers they have over Congress are that they can veto a bill so that it never becomes a law, or they can pass them into laws. They can sign it or they can veto it. Now, if a president vetoes a law, it usually does not become a law. There have been a few times, though, when the bill goes back to Congress and they want it so much that they pass it anyway, but they need a 2/3 vote. Now, if you know about Congress, we've been watching how there's Democrats and Republicans, and they're really close in numbers. It's really hard to get 2/3 of the people in Congress to vote for the same law. So usually it's over if the president vetoes it. It's not going to become a law. And the legislative branch is next. They make the laws. And the power they have over the courts, like the Supreme Court, is that if the president picks someone, they can choose to reject them. The Senate votes on whether to accept a judge or not. So that is a power they have over the courts. And the power they have over the president is the one I just explained about overriding a veto by voting for a bill with 2/3. They can also impeach a president. They have what's called oversight powers over a president to make sure that he or she is not doing anything they shouldn't do, committing crimes, abusing power, things like that. And if they decide that person could be, the House of Representatives can vote for an impeachment trial. And then the Senate actually holds the trial and decides if a president should be removed from office. Okay, the next one is the judicial branch. They interpret laws, decide if they're fair, decide if they're constitutional, decide what they're really meant to be, and then they have a power over Congress that if Congress makes a law that they don't think is fair or constitutional, they can throw it out. They can do the same thing if a president were to issue an order called an executive order that they don't think follows the Constitution either. So they can actually throw out executive orders or laws passed by Congress. All right, the Bill of Rights. You were supposed to illustrate 4 different ones. And it did say this time that you can just simply look for a picture that represents your favorite rights. They have to be from the first 10 amendments. That's the Bill of Rights. Okay, so you put your picture here. If you want to use these bubbles, you don't have to, but you can put down which amendment it is, or you can have some kind of quote there for yourself. You don't have to use those bubbles if you don't want to. And you needed 4 of them, so they continue on the next page. Now, if you were in class, you saw this video in class. If you were at home, you were supposed to watch it on your own, and then write down 5 rights that were violated in the Future Fright video. I will give you a couple examples. The right to a speedy trial. If you remember, there was a man in the prison, in the jail, who said he'd been there for 9 months and he hadn't even been told what he did wrong. He'd never seen a judge. They were just leaving him there. So they're violating his right to a speedy trial that's found in the Bill of Rights. The freedom of the press was also violated. That's when they only had the one television channel and they tried to block the internet from people. That's freedom of the press, blocking all kinds of TV shows, radio shows, websites, things like that. Okay, you will need more on there. You need all five. Now, the other amendments are 11 to 27. These come after the Bill of Rights. You were supposed to watch this video on how you can change the Constitution or amend it, and it explained that three-fourths of state legislatures, that means the lawmakers in each state, like in St. Paul, we have our state legislatures. Our state legislature, they have the power to make state laws. But if we're going to amend the Constitution, then three-fourths of the states have to agree to it. So that's the number they gave you in the video when they told you how the Constitution is changed. Now, you will have to answer on a test how the Constitution can be changed. So make sure that you have watched this. It's a nice, easy explanation for you. All right, the other amendments. You were supposed to go to the website that is linked up in Schoology, and I'm going to show it to you really quickly. It was a list of all the amendments, and at the bottom it said, take a 10-question quiz on this website. And so here's the quiz, and when you get done, it will give you a little score, and you're supposed to post your score here. Right on this, it says your screenshot here. So you just take a quick screenshot and then you can shrink it down and put it in this little box here. You can also cut the edges off, which is what I did to make it a little easier to see. All right, you do not have to get a perfect score. If you want to try it a few times until you get a good score, that's fine, but you don't have to as long as you've looked at the questions. Okay, so now let's blow this back up again. And we want to go on to how a bill becomes a law. And you were supposed to watch the little video here. And then there's a chart. And what the chart shows you is that a bill that they want to become a law can start in either the Senate or the House of Representatives. Okay. It first goes to a committee. The Senate committees will talk about it, debate about it, vote on it, and then it gets put on a calendar and then sent to the Senate floor, the whole Senate, where they're going to talk about it too. Then they're going to send this bill over to the House of Representatives, and basically the same thing happens all over again. Starts in a committee, and that committee debates it and talks about it. They'll send it to the calendar, then they'll send it to the whole House. If they pass the exact same bill, then it goes right down to the president. And remember, the president can sign it or he can veto it. They can also ignore it. And if it never gets signed, it will automatically become a law. That's what they say here when it says allow. He just sort of lets it go, doesn't want to sign it to show approval, but says, you know what, I know most people want it, so I will let it sit and it will become a law all on its own. Veto means no way. And if it gets vetoed, the whole process can start all over again. It'll go back to this committee. They'll say, all right, what doesn't the president like? Maybe there's changes we can make. Or they can say, you know what, we like it so much, and the Senate likes it so much, and the House likes it so much, we're going to try to pass it with 2/3 of us voting for it. And then it doesn't have to go back to the president. Okay, so the big thing to remember is it can start in either house, goes to committees, gets voted on, and then goes to the president. All right, main principles of the Constitution. I do not want to go over every single one of these. The resource that you had in Schoology went over these, and it told you to use your own words. I'm not sure if I left that one open. Let's see. I'll open it really quick so you can see it. This one should be easy to do. You just cannot copy these answers. I also don't want you to copy answers from me, which is why I don't have any on that sheet. But here's where it tells you what each one means. And you put in your own words, not from Google, okay? Not off of this sheet. If you copy and paste, you will not get any points for it. So it won't do you any good to do it. But you put it in your own words onto this chart. Okay. And finally, we get to U.S. citizenship. And this is found in the textbook. And I'm just going to help you out with answers. There are two types of citizens. Please don't write Republican and Democrat. They are native born or naturalized. Native born kind of sounds like what it is. They're born in this country. Naturalized means that they came here as an immigrant and their parents are not citizens, but they want to become citizens. So they go through the process to become a legal citizen in the United States. We also have something called dual citizens, but we're not going to get too into that because that just means you are a citizen of more than one country. In Minnesota, we have a lot of dual citizens that are also citizens of Canada because we are so close together. That tends to happen here. Three duties of citizens. The textbook mentioned things like paying your taxes, following all the laws, defending the nation, and then serving on a jury for a court trial. We all can be called for jury duty once we turn 18, and you're expected to serve if you're called for that. Three ways a citizen can influence: vote in elections, join special interest groups or political action committees that kind of lobby or push for certain things to happen in Washington, D.C., or maybe at your state capitol. They want to see certain things become laws, or they want support for their cause. So those are what those are. And then you can also contact your representatives to tell them things that you want them to do, or the things that you care about. And you can participate in their campaigns. And you do not have to be 18 to participate in someone's campaign to help them get votes and things like that. So those of you who have a special interest in a certain candidate for office, you can work for that candidate to help them get elected. You don't have to wait until you're 18 years old to do that. Okay, so that is your foldable. You will be able to use this on your test this week. So you want to make sure you have it all done, filled in as completely as possible, and then you'll be able to refer to it for certain test questions. All right.